He's an entrepreneur. I mean, it's part of the same message and the same narrative, which is to say, nobody has to decide for our future. We are the one to decide. Nobody has to lecture us, but which means that we have to take our responsibility. Think about the legacy, the sustainability of our deeds, and how we share, how we develop our countries. And we can revert on that, obviously, during the discussion. But this new narrative is just to say Africa is the one to decide for Africa, to explain about Africa, and to create its own model of entrepreneurship, but its own culture, and to explain it to the rest of the world. And not just to be part of a globalization whose adjustments were always made despite of people in a certain way. So this new narrative is to be built now. And I do believe it's your responsibility. And I do believe it's good for Africa and it's good for France. Because if Africa doesn't succeed, France and Europe will never succeed on the long run. For two very simple reasons. Europe is not an island, and all this migration crisis, and we can revert on it if you want, is exactly due to the fact that we have a common destiny. And second, because we have a very important African diaspora in France, in the rest of Europe, and they cannot live and develop themselves and succeed in France or in Europe if in their country people don't succeed. That's this new narrative, and it was my first message. The second one is that entrepreneurship and innovation is part of the answer. It's part of the answer because that's the best way to access to responsibility and to change everything when you are young and you want to do it. Innovation is just about change. Smart people, when they are in charge, are obsessed by innovation because they want to reinvent themselves. But new players, new people, young people, should be obsessed by innovation because this is the way to access. This is the only way when you're not a player, not an insider, to enter into the game and to succeed. To disrupt the insider, to become part of the game. Innovation is just about how to invent or reinvent something which can succeed, make your life better and the life of your family and people around you better. And I mean, there is no cap for innovation, except the one you have in your mind. There is no cap. Innovation is just precisely all about how to create and at the same time to destroy past activities when it doesn't make sense. But how to create new things, new perspectives, and provide new opportunity to young people. I mean, if I'm here today, it's just because I wanted to change a lot of things, and I decided to innovate and take my risk in political life. I never asked for the permission to do so. And guess what? Even when I tried to get some advice from the insiders of this game, the first advice was, you should wait a little bit. Wait a little bit. At a point of time, it will be for you. But not now. Never follow this kind of advice. So, if you want to do it, if you want to change this world, if you want to change your country, if you believe in your innovation, in your project, just make it feasible, just create, just dare, and just do it right now. That's about innovation. And that's part of the answer for this continent and this country. You have massive young people. And part of their future will be through this innovation. And that's why we decided to launch this Digital Africa initiative, which means to create a sort of African platform for digital. And not to explain people, to lecture people what they should do. I mean, I'm not the one to have definitely the best possible idea for Nigeria or Lagos. I mean, some entrepreneurs had some of them, and it seems that even crazy ideas are becoming reality. So, I mean, it's good. I saw the island just in front of the hotel. But you are the one to have the right decisions and the right ideas for your country, for what is good for your people, which kind of innovation could succeed, which kind of innovation could find its market. So Digital Africa is precisely this platform where we will connect. So you have here, and that's a website, and so, thank you. It's part of the advisory board for Africa. And
I'll carry it like this.
it's just a bag, but it's bag, ideas, and money. And what we want to do is to connect people and to allow people with ideas and innovation to scale them. Because a lot of things are a question of scale. How to accelerate, get access to market, get access to financing, being connected with other people with the same kind of ideas, improve your ideas and your innovation thanks to that. And I think it's good because that's the best way to work between startups all around Africa, but as well to work with investors and with... I think it's a good showcase. And precisely to work with large companies, with business angels, and I want to thank all the large caps present in this room coming from Nigeria and France. Some of you made a long trip to be here, and I think it's very important because for me, these large corporates, these large foreign corporates, some of them work already with you, but a lot of them...
Like Total.
Yeah. But they can be part of this ecosystem as well, and be part precisely of how to finance and how to work and innovate with African startups and this new Digital Africa. Because it's good for them as well. Because it's how to reinvent their model, their brand in Africa. And it's good for you because it will provide a lot of opportunities for young people. My third and last remark is obviously that part of this answer we are discussing for Africa and this new narrative is obviously about innovation and disruption, but as well about, more broadly, private sector. Private sector is part of the answer. Because private sector could provide a better access to people. Much better than political life, I have to confess. And when you want to get access to responsibility, make your family happy, have a better life, you need this access, and you need this access to private sector. I'm a strong believer in the African private sector. And
I'll clap for that.
Because I think that's the best way by African business people, for African people, to change the continent and change the countries, and to make it for people, and not for foreign business, with foreign business, despite of your people. Even if a few people can make their profits with the classical players. I think the unique way to succeed is to have a strong private sector on the ground, being developed here, because this is the only way to have an inclusive growth, which means to have an actual growth, a sustainable growth on the ground, to build middle classes in the different countries. These middle classes will buy a lot of products which will allow other African players to develop their business and create new businesses, which will be the only way to have a sustainable political life. Because when people get access to jobs, to better life, I mean, the political life is totally different because the whole society is much more inclusive. And it's part of this African success. That's why we launched another initiative for African private sector, which is the fact that we decided to invest €1 billion, which means 500 billion naira under your control, in the African private sector through the French Development Agency